Okay, so let's get started. So today I will be focusing on how to use whiteboards. This is a feature that we released a few months ago. And even if you've watched this webinar before, we have actually done an update in the last day where we've changed the menus a little bit. So it may well be beneficial for you just to stick around and just have a look at those new menu options. So this is a whiteboard that I've already created. If you take a look here, you can see that this whiteboard, is a really free space where I can arrange, different elements such as lists. I've got different attachments. For example, here I've got a Word document, and here I've got a Excel file. I've got images that I've arranged. I've got sticky notes with text on, and I've arranged these in different sections to organize them. Then up here, I've got a flowchart which I've built. So you can see that a whiteboard is quite different to a mind map, which has a very particular structure, or even a task board. You're pretty much free to put your images and arrange everything in a way that suits you. So it's a great way of documenting and arranging maybe inspirations, maybe different ideas, such as like a mood board, vision board, or inspiration board. But you can also link to other boards that you have. For example, here I've got a link to a task board that I've already created, and here I've got a mind map. So you could also almost use your whiteboard as a dashboard for maybe, overview of a project that you have. So as well as just being able to, use this for, a creative purpose, if there are things that you've created that you realize you need to action, you can also add these sticky notes as tasks on existing task boards that you have. So what I'm going to do now is walk you through how you would create a new whiteboard. I'm going to go through the different elements that you can add and how you'd rearrange those. So navigate to the home page from wherever you are. So the whiteboards are available on desktop and the web app. And then just click Create Whiteboard. So if you want to start off with a completely clean slate, so a completely blank whiteboard, then click the first option. Or if you're not quite sure how you want to structure it, we've got a few different templates here, which you can start off with. So that includes templates for flowcharts as well. And they're a great point to get started if you're really not quite sure how you want to organize it. And then over time, you can actually create your own templates as well that you can use at any point. So I'm going to begin with a blank whiteboard. So name your whiteboard. You can add a description. This will be useful for people you're inviting later on if there's any delay in you, communicating why you've added them to the whiteboard. Then invite collaborators. So that will be anyone you want to share this whiteboard with, who you want to also be able to contribute to it. So if you're completely new to Ayoa and you don't have any contacts yet, just type in their email address. They'll be sent an invite to sign up to Ayoa. And once they've registered, they'll be able to join you on this whiteboard and contribute as well. If you've worked with them before, you can just click on this drop down or even start typing names and they'll be suggested. You can also adjust the permissions. So you can choose how they interact with your whiteboard. So for example, if I wanted Alex to be able to add sticky notes, add and edit content, I can just leave her on default. But if I wanted Dora to only be able to read the whiteboard and not be able to edit anything, I can change her to read only. What I can also do is create a task board at exactly the same time that will link up to this whiteboard. And you can even start that task board in a template, which will make it easier for you to drag and drop in tasks if you find that's what you need to do later on. So I'm going to choose a Kanban board. And that will create a template that is a task board that is now linked. So this is my new blank whiteboard, and I've got complete freedom of where I place all my individual elements. You can see up here that this is where I can see the whiteboard members, and I can add other people here as well if I realize there's anyone that I've left behind. And they'll get a notification just to let them know that they've been invited to the whiteboard. And I can also quickly change people's permissions here, or if I click on the trash can, I can remove them as well. If I want to very quickly start a conversation from this whiteboard, I can click Add Chat, and that quickly creates a group chat with everyone that's on the whiteboard. And I can, if I've got Ultimate, I can begin a video call from here as well. So now I'm going to go through the different elements on the whiteboard, how you add them on and how you might use them. So right at the top here, we've got sticky notes. So if we look at the board that I've made earlier, I've used the sticky notes to, add, different ideas and communicate, and even sometimes provide captions for images. So you've got a few different shapes to choose from. Down here, you can pick the color, and you can even choose the shade that you want to use. Then just drag and drop either the big image or the small image onto the canvas. You can increase or decrease the size of the sticky note using this little blue icon. And you can just double click on the text to modify that. And you've got your sticky note. Now, if you add multiple sticky notes to your whiteboard, and you want to group them all together just to save some space, just drag them on top of each other, and it will create a collection, which I can rename here. So perhaps if you've got groups of different sticky notes that you want to collect together, you can pop them in here. If you decide, actually, I don't need them in there, you just drag them out and it gets rid of that collection. Next on the list, we've got lists. I can see we've just got a few latecomers to the webinar. So just to let you know, we are recording this session, so you will be able to go back and watch the beginning. And if you have any questions, please click on the Q&A and I'll be answering those questions towards the end of the session. So next on the list, we've got lists. You can pick and choose the color, then just drag and drop it onto the board, type the name of your list, and you've got your list there. So to add new items, just type here and click enter. So you can choose to either show the list in full, or if you want to save space, you can reduce it and you'll get a scroll here. If you need to change the color, so if it's on the sticky note or on the list, click on the 3-dot menu and you will be able to change the color and edit it here. Next, we've got images. So you can upload an image from your device, and that includes GIFs as well. You can drop in emojis, or we've got a built-in royalty-free image search. And just drag and drop it anywhere onto the board to add it in. And you can add a caption if you want. Next, we've got text. So if you want to add text but not have a background like a sticky note, perhaps you want to add a title or just a few words, then you can use this instead. So pick and choose your color, how dark it is, play around. With the formatting there, and then just drag and drop it onto the canvas, and you've got your text. So next on the list, we've got add board. So this creates a link and a visual to an existing board that you have. So if you've already been using Ayoa for a while, and maybe you have mind maps or task boards, and perhaps your whiteboard refers to these, you can drag and drop them onto the whiteboard. So I'm just going to pick and choose a board to drag and drop. There we go. Oh, bear with me a second. There we go. So I can increase this and make this bigger. So I can almost use this like as a preview of of that mind map. Or I can keep it really small and just use it like a shortcut. So if I click open mind map, that will quickly open that mind map, so I can then edit that instead. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the call, it means you could almost set your whiteboard up like a dashboard where you direct people around to the various different boards that they may be using. Then down here, we've got attachments. So attachments are a Pro and Ultimate exclusive. So if you currently got the free version, you won't be able to use this quite yet. But here you can upload different file types from your device. If you use Dropbox or Google Drive, you can add links there instead. And what you can also do is add web links. And if you add a YouTube link, then you can actually drag and drop in an embedded video. So I can now click play and I could play that video. So for that purpose, it's the whiteboards can be used for in instructional boards. You might use them for maybe onboarding for a new member of staff, or perhaps you want to create a whiteboard that gives instructions on how to do a certain thing. Then the next icon we've got is flowcharts. So just to show you one that I've created earlier, you can see here that I've created a really simple flowchart with yes or no answers. So click new flowchart, and this opens up this new screen. On the left, we've got a library of loads and loads of different icons for you to choose from. It's a case of just simply dragging and dropping your icons into the flowchart canvas. And then just drag and drop the arrows to show the flow and the direction of your flowchart. There are loads and loads of different icons to choose from. And if there's anything in particular that you need, you could even import your own images and your own icons into the whiteboard as well. So I'm just going to open up this whiteboard that I made earlier, because you can go back and edit those flowcharts at any time. So you can see this one, I built in different pathways, and I built in different options. And then on the right here, I can control the style of the flowchart. If you need to print out this flowchart separate from the whiteboard, or even if you just want, a PDF export, you can do this in diagram. So, export, you've got your options there, or you can just simply print. And once you've completed your flowchart, click Save and Exit. And then make sure you drag and drop your flowchart onto your whiteboard. So don't navigate away, don't refresh. Make sure you've dragged and dropped it onto your whiteboard before you close. Next, down here, we've got a couple of different draw options. So the first option here is a really simple pen tool. You could use this to highlight different sections of the board. Or, if you've got a stylus or something like that, you could write and draw using that tool. Then click Done when you're happy with it. Then next, we've got arrows. We've got a few different arrows to choose from. You can choose which direction the arrowhead goes in, whether it's at both ends or just one. Pick and choose your color, pick the width, and then just drag onto the canvas and let go when you're happy with it. Then click Done. And you can move that anywhere around the canvas then. Then finally, we've got shapes. So with shapes, you can choose to have them automatically show in the background. And you can choose the fill of the shape, the outline, how thick the outline is, and then just draw it onto the canvas. And finally, we've got Add Sketch. So this is like a paint tool where you can create images using different shapes, pen tool, different shapes, and you can add images in as well. So if you just wanted to annotate an existing image, you'd be able to do that as well. So obviously this is not a work of art right here, but I'm sure, if you had time, you'd be able to create an image that's going to be useful for you. For example, you could use, different circles and different shapes to maybe create seating plans or something like that, something nice and simple. Then click Save and Exit, crop the image as you want. And then drag and drop it onto the canvas. Okay, not sure why that isn't working right now. Things that happen when you're live on a webinar, but usually you would just drag and drop it and it would be added to the canvas. So at the very bottom, we've got sections. So if I show you the board that I've made earlier, you can see that I've organized some of these sticky notes and some of these images into different sections where I've given them titles, I've given them background images, and it just helps to make more sense of the different content that's on here. So to create a new section, click here, and you can choose the color, choose the border color, whether you want rounded edges or straight edges. Then just drag and drop it onto the board. To add a background image, just click on the three-dot menu here and click Set Image. So I've got the same options. So I've got, upload from my computer, or I can search for a royalty-free image. And that adds a nice background image to the section, which will grow in size along with the section when I modify it. And then it's just a case of dragging and dropping in anything I want to be part of this section. I can just increase the size as I go along. So I can add in my flowchart, I can add in my lists. And you can see all of a sudden, the chaos that I created now looks a lot tidier. And there's a little bit more order. And if at any point, if there's anything that I want to delete that I feel doesn't serve me anymore, look out for this three-dot menu and just click Delete. Within that menu, you also have the option to pin items, which will stop people moving them. So if I want to, not accidentally move something, I can pin it. And if I want to completely lock people from moving or editing it, I can click Lock Item. So that shows you the basic elements of how you start to build your whiteboard. So now I'm going to move back to that bigger whiteboard that I've made earlier and show you some extra features. So when we created our early whiteboard, we attached a task board to it so that if there was anything I needed to action within that whiteboard, I could easily drag and drop those sticky notes to create tasks. So to use that feature, click Taskbar. And if you haven't already got a taskboard attached, click Attach Taskboard. Now have a look for whatever taskboard that you feel is relevant. This will open up all your categories at the bottom. So these are the very same categories that you create while making a taskboard. Then pick and choose the sticky notes that you want to turn into a task. For example, like research free gift options. I might decide, okay, we need to actually do this. So the icon you want to click is this one. And you can see that in this drop down, it's showing me exactly the same categories that are at the bottom here. So if I click on marketing, it adds a task to marketing. And I can see when I click on this category at the very top, I now have a task called research free gift options that has been added to that task board. And without leaving my whiteboard, I can now begin to edit this task in exactly the same way as I would be able to if I was in a task board straight away. And if I want to quickly jump from the whiteboard I'm working in to that taskboard, I just need to click to taskboard. And that takes me straight to there. And it's just as easy to jump back. So if I click back to whiteboard, that takes me back. And you're not restricted to one taskboard. You can open up different taskboards at different times. So you could use the same whiteboard to inform you, about multiple different taskboards that you're working on. Then just click this little arrow to hide it. If you want to export your whiteboard as a PNG or a JPEG, click up here, and this brings up the board options menu. So those options are here. So export as PNG image or export as JPEG image. So if you only wanted to export maybe a particular section of your whiteboard, that's also an option as well. So I'm just going to wait for that to finish. But while we're waiting, so if I want to just export this section, for example, I can click on the three-dot menu and export that there. Okay, so while I'm waiting for that to export, there's a few other different options in here as well. So as well as being able to export to PNG or JPEG, you can also choose to export the entire whiteboard as either a mind map or a taskboard. These options are here. So if I click export as taskboard, for example, I can choose to add it to a taskboard I've already started or just create a brand new one. And this will turn the different elements of my taskboard, different elements of my whiteboard into tasks and categories on my taskboard. I can also do that as a mind map as well. So if you start off with a whiteboard, but realize actually you really want to drill down and explore different ideas in a more methodical way, then you can swap and export it as a mind map instead. Within these options, you also have the option here to save your whiteboard as a template. So if you create a setup that you think is going to work really well for other projects that you're working on, you can save it as a template and create a new whiteboard from that template at any point. There we go. So you can see that I've created a new taskboard from that whiteboard. So the different sections have been turned into categories, and anything within those categories have been added as its tasks. And if you ever need to jump back quickly to a different mind map or different board, click on the drop down here and you'll be able to quickly navigate back. In the board options as well, this is where you can change where it's located. So you can pop it into a different folder, and it's here as well that you can rename the board. In the display options, you can change the background color. So these colors are chosen in mind for those with dyslexia and sensory issues, as it can make it a little bit easier to navigate and read, and also take the glare away from it being so white. If you click on more colors, you can choose different hex colors instead. If you want to show exactly who's added what to your whiteboard, you can turn creators on And you can see that the avatar now shows on all the items. If you want your whiteboard to automatically center whatever you're clicking on, turn that on, turn that to on. And when I click on the item, then it will automatically adjust the view and move whatever you're clicking on onto the center. This may be a useful feature for you if you've got quite a large whiteboard. And then finally, we've got voting. So, if you propose maybe different ideas, you might have, for example, a section with loads of different images, with different design ideas. If you have voting on, when you click on a comment or an item, you'll see a little thumbs up. So if you click on that, you can see that there's a vote up there. So a whiteboard is also really useful for gathering and documenting feedback. Okay, so we've covered a few different features in whiteboards today. So we've gone through the different elements, how to export your whiteboard and the new different menu options. So I can see that there are a few questions already. So I'm just going to have a look at the Q&A and answer any questions that you have. So if anyone hasn't asked a question yet and they're burning to ask them, just click on Q&A and I'll be happy to help. Okay, so the first question is there any publicly available whiteboard created by other users? Do you mean like something like Bigger Plate, where you have like a library of different templates that have been made by different people? If that's what you mean, we don't quite have anything like that yet for whiteboards. That is what you mean. Okay. We don't have that quite yet. However, we've got built-in templates. And what you can also do is share templates with other people. So if you've made a template, if you click on my templates down here, this will bring up all of the templates that you have. And if you click on that little icon there, you can click Share Template. And you can choose to either do that by sending it directly to someone so that they can open up in Ayoa, or you can create a public share link. And that will give them access to that template. So, and what we'll also be doing over time, we are building that template library up over time. So if you've got any suggestions for, what kind of templates that you would like to see and what you think might be useful for other people, send us over a message and we'd be happy to feed that back, to the marketing team. Okay, well, thank you for your suggestion. I'll definitely feed that back. We do have a public forum. So, what I can suggest is if you jump on our public forums, we really encourage people to, build a community there. It means that, people could share their different template links in there. And what I'll do, I'll speak to the team after this webinar and we'll see if we can kickstart that. And just get a topic started where people can submit, different templates to mind maps or whiteboards or even task boards that they've worked on that they think would be helpful to other people. Okay, so the next question is, does the person you invite to join a whiteboard need a paid Ayoa subscription, or will a free account suffice for them? So they don't need a paid account to view the whiteboard. So if you send them an invite, by email address, and they haven't got an Ayoa account, they'll get an email prompting them to sign up for the free account. Once they've signed up to the free account, they will be able to access the board that you've invited them to. Now, as a free user, they will have some limitations compared to the person who already has a paid subscription. So, for example, they won't be able to access or make in excess of 5 boards, and they won't have access to all the features that you do. But for the purpose of inviting them to a whiteboard or a mind map, let's say, just for them to have a look around, in their free accounts, it will be fine. So someone's asked, could you demonstrate how to use a framework in Ayoa? What framework do you mean? And if it's something that's not quite related to whiteboards, what I would suggest is popping us over an email and just explaining a bit more by what you mean by a framework. Okay, so while I'm waiting for any additional questions, I'm just going to walk you through where you can find more information about learning about Ayoa. So we have support guides available on support.ayoa.com. On our YouTube channel, you can find previous videos and recorded webinars, and you can also see interviews from other people who used Ayoa. So if you're looking for more examples about how people use Ayoa rather than different features, then I recommend having a look through our different case studies. We've also done interviews with people who use Ayoa for assistive technology. So for example, those who work with dyslexia. And then if you've got any additional questions that you can't find the answer to, you can email us at support@ayoa.com and we'd be delighted to help. We deliver webinars on a weekly basis, usually on a Wednesday afternoon, UK time. And next week, our webinar will be about getting started. So in that, we basically do an overview of the different features, such as whiteboards, mind maps, and task boards. And we show how the three can interact. And as always, even if you can't attend at that exact time, by signing up, you will get a recording the day after that you can watch at your convenience. Okay, I just want to check if anyone has any more questions before I finish the webinar for today. And if there is anything that comes to you after this finishes, then do pop us over an email at support@ayoa.com. I'm afraid the person who asked me about frameworks, I don't quite understand what you mean in the context of this whiteboard webinar. But if you're able to pop us over an email with a bit more information about what you're looking for, then we'd be delighted to help you. Okay, I think that's all the questions for today. So thank you very much for joining me this afternoon. The recording will be sent out tomorrow. And I really hope you found this session useful. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.